So how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to my Star Wars Battlefront 2 update review. I do these every time there is a new update, just to sort of go over all the good things and the bad things, and just to sort of give my overall opinion on the update. And I gotta be honest, going into this update, I was not very excited. I had very low expectations. I knew that we were just getting stuff for co-op, and I knew that we weren't getting Capital Supremacy this month, so I honestly was not that excited. I'm not the biggest fan of co-op, and I don't like how they are steering away from Galactic Assault. But once they actually announced the stuff that we were getting in this update, and once I got my hands on these new reinforcements and some of these new blasters, I'm having a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this update. It completely caught me off guard. This is actually one of my favorite updates that we've had to this game, and I had little to no expectations for it whatsoever. So I'm just going to say it right now. I think DICE did a really great job with this update. This update had a lot of quality of life changes. They changed some of the user interface things. You can now toggle different things on and off in your menu. You can customize your HUD to look however you want. You can turn on and off the kill feed. You can remove the player names above people's heads. So there's a lot of customization to make your HUD look the way that you want it to, because a lot of people don't like all the stuff that's going on at your screen. It can be a bit overwhelming when you have like 4 or 5 different things pop up on your screen at the same time. So this update gives you the option to turn those off. I personally have turned like 3 or 4 of the things off on my HUD, and I think it makes it look more immersive with the option to turn some of that stuff off. So I think that's a great change, and it's a small change, but it's a welcome one. And then they added some other small things, like they changed the way that the menu looks. I think it looks a lot slicker now. Now when you go into the respawn menu, your battle points look different now, which looks pretty cool. And then they made it so when you hit select on the scoreboard, it will show everybody's levels. Now this is currently bugged. They just added this to the game. I think they're going to have this fixed within the next patch. They were already talking about it on Twitter and stuff. It currently just shows your levels. So for example, if you are an officer and you're level 50, if you hit the select button, every other officer on the scoreboard shows up as level 50. So that's currently bugged, but once they get that fixed, I think that's a good change as well. I like the idea of looking at the scoreboard and seeing what level everybody is. But moving on from that, let's talk about the new reinforcements. We have the Ewok and the ISB Agent. Now these two reinforcements are fun to play with. I was not expecting either one of these two, but they completely caught me off guard. The Ewok is fun to play, and so is the ISB Agent. I just don't think they are nearly as good as some of the other reinforcements we have. Now there is a bit of a skill curve when it comes to the Ewok. The Ewok can do a lot of damage when you zoom in with his bow, and you have to manually aim it. You can deal a lot of damage, and you can one-shot kill some infantry with the bow. And I've noticed that PC players are a bit more deadly with the Ewok compared to a console player. I've noticed the difference just myself playing on arcade in the PC. When you have the accuracy of a mouse, the Ewok is very, very dangerous, but it is a bit harder to aim on console. When you go from using automatic blasters all the time to using a bow and arrow, and you actually have to aim, and you have to get the timing down for when you can fire your arrow perfectly, it is pretty difficult to use the Ewok. The Ewok just doesn't do that much damage with his base attacks. And for 1,500 battle points, I don't think the Ewok is better than the Droideka, for example. The Droideka is only 1,000 battle points. I think the Ewok should definitely be only 1,000 battle points, because they just aren't that good. They are fun to play with, and they can be very, very good if you're in the right hands and someone is very good with their aim. But for the most part, I don't think the average casual player is going to do very well with the Ewok. Now for the ISB Agent, they are a dual-wielding character, and they have some very unique abilities. They can instantly heal themselves and teammates around them. They have a radar ping, and then they also have a passive ability where you can get melee kills and you will replenish your health. Now the Ewok also has a passive ability where if you crouch, you regenerate all of your other abilities a bit faster, but from what I could tell, it didn't make that much of a difference with the Ewok. But with the ISB Agent, the primary blasters just don't do that much damage. I often find myself overheating both my blasters just to kill one opponent. It just doesn't feel like they're that powerful. It is pretty rewarding to get those melee kills though, but I just don't feel like the melee is as good as something like the BX droids or even the spy. And then when it comes to the dual wielding, I think the ARC Trooper for the clones is definitely way better than the ISB Agent. So I think both of them are fun. I just think that they need some tweaking. I think the ISB Agent needs a little bit of a damage buff to his primary blasters, and I think the Ewok honestly is kind of fine as long as you make it cost a little less battle points. And then I want to talk about some of the changes they made to the pre-existing reinforcements. They changed the rocket jumper, for example, for the Empire. He came with 2 new looks, so you can change the appearance of him. I think it looks way better now. This is based off of the way that they look in Rebels. And they got rid of the primary weapon, and they replaced it with the default blaster, which is the E11. Now, from what I've been playing, these guys do feel a lot better. The E11 for these guys, it's not the best, but it's definitely way better than the previous weapon they've had before. If I was to rank these rocket jumpers in comparison to some of the other aerial units, I would definitely put these a little bit higher on the list. I don't think they're as good as like the clone jump trooper or the first order jet trooper, but I definitely think that they're way better than they were before, and this is a great change. And then moving on to the Death Trooper. The Death Trooper now has their correct blaster from Rogue One, which is the E11D, and it honestly has made the Death Troopers way better. In some cases, I would even argue that the Death Trooper is a mini hero. Like, the Death Trooper is way better. I could tell a night and day difference with the Death Trooper, and honestly, sometimes I pick the Death Trooper over some heroes in certain situations now. They cost less, they have a lot of health, they have very good accuracy, their overload ability is even better now. All around, the Death Trooper got a major buff. I think the Death Trooper is a lot better with this new blaster, and they're a lot of fun. So that's one of my favorite changes of this update, was that new blaster for the Death Trooper. And then since we are on the subject of blasters, there are 4 new blasters finally added to the game this update. 1 for each of the classes, and you have to unlock these blasters by completing milestones in co-op mode. Once you unlock the blaster, you can then use them online to unlock the rest of the attachments. So for the Assault class, they have the E11D, the Heavy got a T21, the Officer got a DL18, and the Specialist got a Cycler Rifle. Now, all the blasters are really fun to use. I think the E11D is really good for the Assault class. The T21 for the Heavy really packs a punch, especially if you get the 3-round burst unlocked. It is really fun to use. In some cases, the 3-round burst can just one-shot kill people if you hit them with all 3 bolts from the 3-round burst. The DL18 for the Officer honestly feels kind of on par with the SE44C. I can't really tell too much of a difference with the DL18. I mean, it's a good blaster, it just doesn't feel that unique to me personally compared to some of the other blasters. And then for the Cycler Rifle, I couldn't tell much of a difference between that one and some of the other snipers. I'm not a big fan of the Specialist class, so I don't use snipers that often. But from what I could tell, it just felt kind of on average with the other snipers, and it didn't really stand out to me like the E11D and the T21 does. But overall, I think it's a great change. It's a real nice breath of fresh air. It brings new life to the game. It's a lot more fun to play with these blasters, and I hope they add more blasters like this in the future. It took over 831 days since this game's launch to get new blasters added, and there's already models in the game. For example, the Clone Commando has a blaster, the Sith Trooper has a blaster they could use. I mean, there's a bunch of different options that they could do, so I really hope that they keep it up with more blasters coming in the future. And then the final major thing I want to touch up on is the hero changes. The major changes they made were to Boba Fett, Leia, and to Chewbacca. Boba Fett, they replaced one of his star cards. Now when you hit anybody with the concussion rocket, it automatically disables opponent's blasters for about a second, which is pretty handy. It's good at making quick escapes, and it also opens up another variation for a different card slot for Boba Fett. I personally used the weapon disabler star card before for Boba Fett, so now I like to switch it up and I like to go with extra damage for my rockets with Boba. So I think that's a good change for Boba Fett. And then up next, they changed Leia. Leia got a bit of a buff. Her middle ability, where she uses the E11, is now more accurate and it does more damage. Her flashbang has now been replaced by 3 thermal detonators. Now this ability can glitch out. It's glitched on me a couple times where you throw 1 grenade and it automatically goes into cooldown. But what's supposed to happen is that you can throw all 3 of your detonators before it goes into cooldown. So that is currently bugged. I'm sure they'll have that fixed pretty soon, but even in its current bug state, 1 thermal detonator is better than what her flashbang was before. before, so I think that's a good change. And then as for her bubble shield, it can now heal anybody that goes in it for 5 health points every second. I've seen this used a number of different times now, and this definitely makes Leia a more tactical kind of hero. For example, I went up against Leia on the 3rd phase of Kamino, where you have to defend the barracks, and Leia laid down a bubble shield, and there was like 3 Wookiees and Leia all chilling in the bubble shield, and they were all getting their health back. So in some instances, that bubble shield is really powerful, and if you don't rush Leia with a saber hero, she's going to be very hard to take out now. And she can also heal herself and other heroes. So this actually encourages other heroes to stay close to Leia because they can get their health back. I think it adds a new mechanic to Leia, and overall I think it is a great change, and Leia is actually a good hero now and is definitely able to compete with some of the other heroes now. And then the final change they made was to Chewbacca. Chewbacca now fires his bowcaster differently. If you hold in the zoom button, you can fire one single bolt, which is more accurate. You can hit targets at a bit of a distance. And then normally he fires in a triangle pattern. And then if you activate the Furious Bowcaster, he will fire in a circular pattern. And overall, I think it's way better. You can hit your targets a lot easier now with Chewbacca. Now you can play comfortably at mid-range and you can still do good damage to your opponents. He still has crazy splash damage. His single bolt doesn't do that much damage, but you can at least hit targets at a distance now. So I think this is a great change to Chewbacca. I've noticed a lot more people picking Chewbacca now, and I think this puts Chewbacca in a good spot. I think all the hero changes they made were pretty good. And to sum it up, I'm just really impressed with this update. There's not that many bugs that are in this update. There's a few small ones that aren't even really worth mentioning. There's nothing game breaking, and they completely caught me off guard. So overall, I'm impressed. If I was to rate this update, I would probably give it a solid 9 out of 10, maybe even a 10 out of 10. This is up there with some of my favorite updates ever. If every update following this one is on par with this update, then I'm really excited for the future of this game. And like I said, I hope we get more blasters here in the future. And yeah, it was a great update. I'm really excited to play now. I'm looking forward to next month when we get Scarif and we get Supremacy added to the original trilogy. But yeah, that's going to do it for my review, guys. I really enjoyed this update. Let me know what you guys think about it down in the comment section down below. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Be sure to check out another video. Hit that subscribe button if you guys are new here, and I will talk to you guys next time.
How convenient to have you all together. You saved me the trouble of hunting you down. The First Order will conquer you all. Soon we will reclaim the galaxy. Perhaps you'll take part.